And you sound like you're in a bad mood today, Big Mike. Okay. Well, I was sleeping the last time you texted me. Okay, go ahead, Amanda.
This is the Jeff Robb Show, presented by Bud Light, live at TPC Sports Bar, inside Mystique Casino.
Oh, you know, we just put the Bears on the bucket. We looked at what we thought they were. We played in the preseason. Who the hell thinks the third game of preseason? Well, in the third game, everybody plays 3 quarters. The Bears are what we thought they were. That's why we took the Bears away. If you want to cry, you can cry. But they are what we thought they were. And we got to go home.
And when you look at what he's done to this franchise, he's changed everything. As we celebrate his brilliance and we talk about what a classic of a human being he is. He was 201 years ago today. Yeah, the day told which escorted in the age of romanticism. And when I look at Bill Fiat, I think of Beethoven in the age of the romantics.
That's terrible.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in the rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Blackhawk fans, if you can see what I see right now, to everybody who's here, if my math is correct, this is 1 goal 3 times. Last time we did this, they were saying it was 2 and 4.
You're looking more and more brilliant. Major tournament that goes by, buddy.
I know. They want to pull that muscle, patting myself on the back.
Boddicker this next week.
Perfect. I'm in.
I'll give you the phone number. You call him.
Sounds perfect.
Got his cell number and his farm number.
AM 1490 WDBQ. This is the Jeff Robb Show, presented by our friends at Bud Light. We are live inside TPC Sports Bar here at Mystique Casino on a Friday. John, riding shotgun. How you doing, sir?
Very well. Nice day out today, and I enjoyed the outside weather.
It is beautiful. That special piece there put together for you Blackhawks fans listening. And if you listen to the show with any regularity, then you know that it kind of pained me to have to do that, being a Minnesota Wild fan. But I felt like I owed it to the Blackhawks. And here's the thing. The Blackhawks made me look fairly intelligent for once, actually.
I was thinking about that this week.
I don't want to, pull a muscle patting myself on the back, but I mean, I predicted the thing would be over in 5-6 with the Blackhawks hoisting Lord Stanley's trophy. That's what happened. Same thing in the NBA with the Golden State Warriors really outlasting and wearing down the Cleveland Cavaliers. So here we are. NHL season's over. NBA season's over.
Yeah, on the flip side of that is that I think it was just last week you were kind of talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates in Major League Baseball and not being the team that we thought they were, and they're on a 8-game winning streak you sent them on to.
Yep. So we got a lot to talk about here as far as both of those series are concerned. John, I got to ask you, man, how's the week? Did you have a good week? Did you watch a lot of action when it came to sports?
I did. I watched the final game of both the NBA and the NHL playoffs, and both in Game 6, and it was back-to-back nights, so it was pretty interesting week. So
the conversation now is, where does this latest Stanley Cup leave the Chicago Blackhawks? And I'm talking about ranking them among the all-time best teams, because I'm not a great hockey mind, and I'll be the first to admit this. I can talk NHL, or I can talk NFL with the best of them. I can talk Major League Baseball with most of them, and I could probably talk NHL with a few of them. But here's the thing. Regardless of what the sport is, in my mind, it's not a dynasty, because by definition, they would need to maintain or win consecutive Stanley Cups to enter that conversation. But, whether you're debating whether or not it is, in fact, a dynasty or not, does it really matter at the end of the day? I mean, what we need to do is we need to start looking at this team and putting them in the conversation with great teams, not necessarily dynasties, but great teams or great regimes, great runs that teams have had. And greatness is greatness. And really, this ranks among the top 10, probably the top 5 all-time runs in NHL history when you factor in the fact that they did it in an era where they have a hard salary cap in the NHL.
Yeah, and there should be another word. I don't know what's a rung down from dynasty, because we talked about dynasties. And real dynasties are the Boston Celtics of the 60s and the Yankees of the 40s and 50s, where they win 8 championships in 10 years. That's really a dynasty. So whatever the word is that's right below dynasty, that's probably what the Blackhawks are at right now.
But honestly, why do you need to classify, a certain run a team goes on? Can it just be that they went on a great run?
Yeah.
And you know what? It's maybe a good thing that we don't have these dynasties where teams win for a decade in a row, because when the Yankees were doing it, as you mentioned, years and years ago, ask the Boston Red Sox fans how much they enjoyed baseball through all those years.
And Dodger fan, back in the Brooklyn days, I mean, they made a Broadway play, those damn Yankees, because the Yankees always won the World Series.
So, again, I think the NHL right now, what they have is a nice balance of having a team that every team wants to beat. They have the Goliath, and yet they still have competitive parity where you have other teams who are in the fold winning a Stanley Cup, every so often. And, the conversation for Blackhawks fans, not only, again, is where does this team rank among the all-time greats? And I read an article, I think it was on NHL.com, which is it's apropos to read that there. Right. They had this Blackhawks team, this these last 6 years of the Blackhawks ranking at like number 4. So they had them nestled in the top 5. But again, the salary cap was implemented in 2005. And John, I don't know how familiar you are with the salary cap, but it's a hard salary cap, meaning like there's no exemption. So you have to fall under the cap, and the cap is expected to be around $71 million next year.
Okay.
The Hawks have $64 million tied up in 14 players, and they have a lot of key contributors who are going to be looking for new contracts. And I'm going to read some of these names to you, and even being semi-casual hockey fan, I'm sure you can probably identify a few of these if you watch some of their games here down the stretch. Johnny Oduya, Antoine Vermette, Andrew Desjardins, Michael Roosevelt. You got Brad Richards, Daniel Sarcillo, and those are going to be hard contracts to try and figure out to keep those guys in a Blackhawks uniform, or a Blackhawks sweater, actually, is the appropriate word, next season, because, again, they've got so much money already wrapped up in their stars.
Yeah, and I guess that was my question to you was, where do the Blackhawks go from here? Where do you think their future lies next year and 2 years, 3 years down the road?
Well, they're going to hang on to their core group of players, that they do have locked up, Taves and Kane. But they're going to need to either trade some of their contracts to try and re-sign a guy. Now, I think a guy that I identify being, again, a Wild fan and not a guy who watched Blackhawks games night in and night out, the guy I identify that they absolutely need to lock up long-term is Brandon Saad. And he is a restricted free agent, I do believe. Getting him signed long-term has to be priority number 1. In order to do that, you're probably going to be looking at trying to move Patrick Sharp. He's trade bait. He's got a $5.9 million cap hit. Brian Bickle, $4 million. Chris Versteeg, $2.2 million. And even starting goaltender Corey Crawford probably is not out of the conversation. He has a $6 million cap hit next year. So those are some of the names I think Blackhawks fans should be prepared to hear floated in trade speculation. And ultimately, I think the Blackhawks are probably going to move at least one, but maybe even 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, and maybe that's the new formula in all of sports, is to sign your key players, and you kind of fill in the rest of the roster with guys in free agency or young guys just coming up.
So the Chicago Blackhawks, again, putting a bow once again on the season by winning the Stanley Cup and doing it really in impressive fashion. We've talked about this almost ad nauseum, I would think, for non-hockey fans, the fact that this team wins a Stanley Cup by really getting outplayed, especially in the finals, for probably 60 to 65% of the game. And at the end of the day, they still win.
You know, it's kind of funny you say that because Tampa, all through the series, even in the games where they're up or the games that they eventually won, they always seem to be in panic mode where the Blackhawks never seem to panic at all. I mean, they're a real juggernaut. We talked about them being very workmanlike. I mean, all hockey players are, but the Blackhawks in particular are very workmanlike, and they never seem to be at the disadvantage.
Jordan Spieth right now tied at the top of the leaderboard for the U.S. Open, which is taking place at Chambers Bay in University Place, Washington. I've actually really enjoyed the conversation about this course because it's really polarizing. You've got some that really enjoy watching it. You have others that really are knocking the course because they feel that it looks too much like a British links course. Hey, check. Yeah. You know what? It is a links course. That's what they were going for. And then others are knocking it just because they feel it's almost too difficult, that they enjoy seeing, Jordan Spieth, shoot the double-digit underscore like he did at the Masters. Right. What do you think about it?
Well, it comes down to all these golfers are playing on the same course. I mean, some golfers, of course, may have advantage or disadvantage depending on what their game is, if it's a short game, if it's a long game, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, they're all playing on the same course. And, I like the British Open just because of that. I like the wide open fairways. I mean, it just gives golf a little bit different look.
Dustin Johnson is tied for first along with Henrik Stenson. And again, Jordan Spieth all grouped up there at first place right now, and they are all 5 under right now. I'm going to try and find Tiger Woods. I don't know.
You're going to have to scroll way down. Maybe go to page 2.
154th. Yeah, Tiger Woods. It's been kind of a miserable 2015. It's continuing here at Chambers Bay for the U.S. Open, and it looks like the bet that I made a couple of years ago with my buddy is going to remain intact, at least through the U.S. Open here, and that is the bet that I made that Tiger Woods would never win another major, and I felt confident making it. I got a lot of crap for it when I made it, but here we are, 2.5 years later, and it looks like it's 3.5 years later, and I feel pretty confident about it.
Yeah, and the thing with Tiger Woods, I always find it interesting when the networks are actually promoting upcoming golf events. They always have clips of different players, and they always sneak Tiger Woods in there. Yeah. And I wonder at what point he's going to kind of fall off that advertisement for tournaments.
Never.
You think never?
No,
ever?
Because here's the thing. The media loves it. Like, the media likes to build you up, but they also like to tear you down.
Oh, sure.
And it's good fodder for, I guess, now Joe Buck. By the way, has Fox ever is this their first major golf event?
I'm not sure.
That they broadcast? They're doing like a kind of I'm not going to say a horrible job, but a kind of average at best job.
Kind of odd.
I'd give him a C- right now. It's kind of weird hearing Joe Buck, by the way, narrating golf.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, there's golf, Jim Nance, who a lot of people don't like, but you hear
I like Jim. I think Jim.
I do too.
People give him too hard of a time.
And Jim Nance, his voice you associate with golf. You can have your eyes closed and he's talking about golf.
He's got just a calm, soothing voice. Like, I would be absolutely horrible at golf. The golfers would hate me because I don't have like that monotone low volume that Jim Nance does so well.
Kind of that PBS voice. We're going to talk very softly and people think we're intelligent.
Exactly. And actually, the great thing about Tiger Woods, we'll talk about him for just one more moment. So this course, have you watched any of the footage so far?
No, I haven't. Okay,
so Chambers Bay used to be like a quarry, and they've really built it up. It's right outside Seattle, Puget Sound, right in that area. I think is that right? Puget Sound, is that correct? I got that right. My uncle's from the state of Washington, so I knew I could ask him. He's in town from Rochester, so I figured he was the guy I could ask. So it's right there. It's beautiful. I mean, the area is gorgeous. Wow. They built it up, but they've got a train that's trains constantly coming by. What did they say? Like 60 a day or something like that. It could even be more than that. So these golfers are constantly having trains whizzing by them, and most of the golfers are handling it with aplomb, except for Tiger Woods, who just is he's making it so obvious that he is annoyed by the trains that he'll just sit there and put his hands on his hips to like slump his shoulders. I mean, his body language just sucks. It's like, come on, Tiger, you're not tied for 154th because of the freaking trains.
And it's kind of ironic because a lot of people have described his golf game now as a train wreck. So it's almost appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tiger Woods, not making any noise here. I guess the noise he is making is not good. And, they mentioned it like 4 or 5 times during the broadcast yesterday that that Tiger Woods would not be taking questions from a Fox News reporter or a Fox Sports reporter after he got off the course, because apparently, well, obviously he wasn't happy, but his publicist didn't want to put him in that position. So I personally love the fact that these golfers are being tested. I like the fact that it's a tough course. And I'm actually, the best part about this is that it's on the West Coast and it's a late start time.
Yeah.
So a lot of times with these majors, especially on Thursday and Friday, things are wrapping up as you're just settling into the couch to watch some TV at night. Here, you're able to watch a majority of the coverage at like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. It's great.
Right, yeah. We're on the West Coast, 2 hours behind us, of course, so there's plenty of sunshine all the way till about 11 o'clock our time, probably.
Final thoughts on the NBA Finals. Do you have anything you'd like to kind of throw in there as we put a bow on the NBA talk? Well, at least till the later in the show, we're going to focus on the draft next week.
Yeah, again, you can continue to pat yourself on the back because you predict Golden State after the first game to win it in 5 or 6 games, I believe. Yeah,
here's the thing. Kyrie Irving going down made that a whole lot easier because I feel like Kyrie Irving, if he had remained healthy through that series, or at least 75% healthy, whatever he was, I feel like it would have probably gone 7 and maybe even would have turned out a little bit differently, because I feel like Cleveland would have gotten that third game, because Golden State really didn't turn it on until game 4. You know what I mean? And it felt like the switch flipped, and all of a sudden they were able to go out there and play the brand of basketball that we had watched them play up until the finals. But up until then, there wasn't a lot of intensity, and quite frankly, you can even question the effort that Golden State players were putting forth early on in that series. And I felt like, if Kyrie Irving was still out there with LeBron James going into game 3, that they maybe would have been able to capitalize on a little bit better, or game 4, I should say.
And the big question now that you read a lot about and hear about a lot is Golden State a flash in the pan, or will they sustain this and, over the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, it's hard to say because, the NBA, they don't have a hard cap. They have a soft cap. But like any champion, the conversation turns towards the offseason, which players they are going to be able to lock up and which players they're ultimately going to lose. And the key guy that they need to get paid is Draymond Green, because Draymond Green showed that he is so versatile when it comes to defense. He can cover your 1, your 2, your 3, your 4, your 5. I mean, that is so valuable to have. Growing up a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, I saw that with Kevin Garnett. Tracy McGrady said that hands down the hardest guy he ever faced was Kevin Garnett on the offensive end, that Kevin Garnett would just shut him down defensively. And Draymond Green kind of does that for the Golden State Warriors. He's a really important piece, and he's a restricted free agent. So they got to figure out how to get him signed. I think they're going to be able to do that. I'm not really familiar with Golden State's cap situation right now. But the bottom line is, when it comes to the NBA Finals, the better team won.
Yeah,
the best player lost.
Yeah, I think so. And LeBron said it himself. He's the best player in the world. But, especially with the injuries, he did at the end of the season in the playoffs, he just didn't have the people around him to help him get over the top.
I got to be honest here. When it comes to LeBron James, it's kind of annoying listening to Bulls fans in this market who automatically – you can not like LeBron James for whatever reason. You don't like the way the guy handled his transition to Miami, holding that special press conference, the decision. That's fine. You just don't like the guy. Because you don't like the guy. That's fine too. Who am I to judge or to critique? But the thing I don't like is when people knock his game, like think he didn't do enough or he did too much and that cost his team. That's BS. And honestly, you look dumb when you come out with that argument because you clearly don't know basketball, or you're clearly just trying to argue against LeBron James to be a contrarian.
Right. Especially Bulls fans because you look at the years Michael Jordan back in the 90s, you don't think that Knicks fans and Pacer fans and Detroit Piston fans felt the same way about Michael Jordan as a lot of fans feel about LeBron James, that he's always looking to get, the foul and the ticky-tack stuff. So if you're a Bulls fan, you got to look at that too.
And a lot of this is the younger generation of Bulls fan, because I think the older generation remembers, as a friend of mine on Facebook reminded me when I started a thread about LeBron James on Facebook, that Michael Jordan failed in the postseason when he didn't have a supporting cast. 1986, they got stomped. I think they got swept by the Boston Celtics that year. So older Bulls fans appreciate what Michael had around him. And let's just back up for a second. no one is comparing. The only people who compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan, it seems like, are Bulls fans. Like LeBron and Michael have never compared each other. It's possible, isn't it, for there to be an NBA player who is great, who maybe isn't on the same level as Michael Jordan, right? I mean, it seems like there's only room for two, and it's Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant these days. And I think it's just ridiculous. You have to appreciate what LeBron James is, and he's a great player who just carried his team further than any team has ever done before.
Yeah. And Michael Jordan, what do you think about this? He thinks that he still can beat the Charlotte Bobcat players one-on-one in basketball.
I should clarify, any single player has ever done before. Yeah. Right. Michael Jordan, I don't know. I wouldn't put it against him. Yeah. For number one, it's because it's the Charlotte Hornets.
Right. Yeah.
So if this was a better team, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it's I tell you what, kudos to another former Bull player, Steve Kerr.
Absolutely.
Coach of the Golden State Warriors. I had no idea his dad was killed in the Middle East when he was in college. Did you hear that story?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so his dad was killed in the Middle East in the 80s when he was playing at Arizona. And you can imagine just a horrible situation for Steve Kerr. But, I mean, that was in the middle of the basketball season. Right. And I think it even documented this special I was watching on TV, documented how Arizona State fans were actually kind of chanting, you know, where's your daddy or something like that. I mean,
how
just
terrible can that be?
Awful. But, yeah, he had to go out there, play. You know, this is very soon thereafter. And he lit him up for 20-plus points. So.
Yeah, you know, and I didn't know that, but I followed Steve Kerr's NBA career for a lot of years, and he's always kind of one of my favorite players, you know, with the Bulls, with Cleveland, with San Antonio. So good for him. Congratulations.
Made a lot of great in-series adjustments. He started out handling LeBron James unlike any coach we'd seen before, in that he actually took away all the other four players on the court and allowed LeBron to beat him. Well, it turns out LeBron beat him pretty good, right. Averaging plus 40 points. So they transitioned then to isolating LeBron and taking him out of the game, and that worked a little bit more effectively. They cut down on Andrew Bogut's minutes, put him on the bench, gave Andre Iguodala more minutes, and Iguodala, of course, went on to be the series MVP, finals MVP.
Do you think that's a big part? You think Cleveland is outcoached at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, I mean, now this report that came out today, detailed by Mark Stein, saying that he was sitting behind the bench, and on numerous occasions, LeBron James would just completely override the coach's decisions.
Not a good situation.
No, but you know what? It's not a situation that's unique to other star players who have gone on deep runs in the playoffs. You know, Michael Jordan has gotten coaches fired, and there have been some other greats along the way that have clashed with coaches. It'll just be interesting to see if LeBron James and Blatt are on the same sideline next year, or same bench, I should say. One thing I want to get to here before we go to break, the St. Louis Cardinals get caught cheating, and no one cares, man. No one cares. It just blows my mind. Like, does society not care about this because there are words like hacking and database?
Yeah.
And it's not Tom Brady, Gisele Bündchen, and a deflated football?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you from personal experience, I'm in the IT department. If you say the word database to somebody, their eyes roll in the back of their head, and they don't want to be part of the conversation anymore because you think you're going to bury them in acronyms and computer speak.
So just to give you a frame of reference here, FBI and Justice Department officials are investigating the Cardinals for hacking into an internal network of the Houston Astros to steal closely guarded information about players. Evidence that Cardinals employees broke into a network of the Astros that housed special databases the team had built. It housed internal discussions about trades, stats, and scouting reports. It was all compromised. Yeah. And, it could have been a rogue employee, or it could have been that there were several employees internally who were taking advantage of this. And I think the way that the information was uncovered, the fact that one of the Cardinals employees kind of put it out there and was like, haha, look what I have access to. I think that maybe kind of tempers some of the scrutiny that some people would otherwise give the organization for doing this. But the bottom line is, and Keith Logs detailed this last night on Baseball Tonight on ESPN, but the Houston Astros, at first you hear this and you're like, okay, if you could hack into any team, why would it be the Houston Astros, who have been maybe arguably the worst baseball team the last 2 decades? But the Houston Astros, as Keith Law explained, they're one of the most progressive organizations in baseball in terms of using analytics and stuff to determine when a player's ready to come up to the majors, how they evaluate players. Basically, they're really good at taking information from like the old school way to evaluate a player and putting into their system and coming up with numbers that determine whether or not a player using their information is ready to come up. And again, they had access to all of it. Someone is going to lose their job almost certainly. There's going to be a huge fine. And I'm just curious how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Right. And or how high it goes up to the executive level with the Cardinals. And of course they claim that it doesn't go up to the general manager or anything like that. But I'll tell you one thing, I read quite a bit about this story. And the one thing, I'll give you a little IT hint here, is never keep a master password list. That's bad. Those 3 words together are bad.
So the Astros employee who kind of oversaw this, correct? He used to work for the Cardinals.
Right.
And
some bad blood, maybe.
Right. So he kept his password going to the Astros, and somehow an Astros or a Cardinals employee, I don't know what prompted him to try and log in. Maybe it was one of those things where you automatically started entering the name, the username, and then the password automatically appeared. I'm not really sure, but and again, these are all details that I'm sure we'll find out down the road. But to me, it's more newsworthy than Dale Earnhardt Jr. proposing to his girlfriend the day after all this is uncovered. The fact that Major League Baseball's most successful team over the last 2 decades was caught stealing information. How is that not bigger news?
From the least successful team.
I tell you what, it just shows you, though, that TMZ really determines what's newsworthy these days. Yeah. Because it's not that sexy of a story for TMZ, but for sports fans, it should have gotten more run than it did.
And the Justice Department's involved in it, so it's a pretty big deal.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to do something we haven't spent too much time doing here in the last several weeks, which I've been kind of upset about because it's my number one sport, the NFL. We're going to come back we're just going to kind of run over the NFC North and what teams are looking like here as they break for 5 to 6 weeks before training camp starts after mini camps concluded earlier this week. It's the Jeff Robb Show presented by Bud Light. We're live, TPC Sports Bar inside Mystique Casino on AM 1490 WDBQ.
You want anything else?
Nope. Did my dad get lost? Yeah. How you doing, Papa D? Hey, buddy. Go ahead and just run whatever we need to. He still is? So you want me to be, well, can't you pot us up? Oh, you got us pinned to the top? Wow. Okay. Yeah, just the ones that we're paying for right now. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. You can still add. Yeah, no joke. That's awesome. Oh, wait. Hey, John, you want to do me a favor? You want to repost the link on our Facebook page one more time? Go ahead, Amanda. And we're back inside TPC Sports Bar here at Mystique Casino. I failed when we opened the show to mention that we are streaming on the web via the YouTube stream. And we do have a link for you on our Facebook page. You can friend the Jeff Robb Show on Facebook to find that. And I tell you what, I still got to put that up on Twitter. I'll be posting that on Twitter momentarily. But we do want to thank our viewers and our listeners on the YouTube stream. And, of course, on the radio on AM 1490 WDBQ, your home for Chicago Cubs baseball. And the Cubs tonight taking on my favorite team, the Minnesota Twins. They start a 3-game series tonight at 7:05. And, of course, we're going to have that game for you after we get done. And we're going to be talking a lot more baseball here a little bit later on in the show. Right now, I want to take an opportunity to talk about the NFC North, as the NFC North teams have they broke minicamp, and this is really their summer break. They get 5 to 6 weeks, depending on when teams are going to be reconvening for training camp in late July, and then from there it's just 100 miles an hour until the end of the season. So here, kind of the state of the NFC North as teams begin to make the final push towards training camp. The Chicago Bears signed former Dolphins running back Daniel Thomas to a 1-year contract. John Fox, like all coaches, has asked players to maintain a low profile. John, most coaches these days are trying to temper expectations, and rightfully so. I think there's no question that the best way to go about your business, or the best way to enter a season, is with the expectations low, and then do nothing but impress. Because when the bar's set really high, it seems like more often than not teams aren't able to fulfill expectations, and they fall short.
Yeah, and I agree. You see that all the time, where somebody predicts they're going to, win their division or win the Super Bowl or go all the way, or they're personally going to rush for 2,000 yards or something like that. That it does set the expectation high and puts extra pressure on everybody, including the coach and the general manager and the whole staff.
First-round pick Kevin White missed the 3-day minicamp for an undisclosed reason, but fans were assured by John Fox that he'd be ready for training camp, something definitely to monitor for Bears fans. The great news, though, for Bears fans, because I feel like, well, he already has been an integral part of their offense, but certainly will be again this year. Tight end Martellus Bennett attended minicamp. Now, he still wants a new deal, but at least he's taking the professional approach in that he's honoring the contract that he already signed. He's showing up, and he made it to mandatory minicamp. Now, of course, factoring into his decision maybe would have been the fact that he was going to face fines and lose tens of thousands of dollars if he skipped it.
Hey, remember last year during camp that he actually got suspended off the team for, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 days because of his attitude on the field.
Yeah. So, and again, the great thing about when you have a new coaching regime come in, and I guess in the Bears case also a new front office, is that you have players who sometimes have a new outlook on their attitude and the way that they view the team that they're currently with. And who's to say that Martellus Bennett maybe had an internal beef with the former coaching staff, Tressman, or one of his guys, and that was the reason, on top of the money being an issue. Obviously, he's handling it a lot more professionally this time around.
Yeah, and I think John Fox, he has a reputation of being a player's coach, if there's such a thing, and it seems like guys like to play for him, so maybe that's a big difference.
Is there any Bears fans who are who are reading into how Jay Cutler is liking Adam Gase's new offense and actually giving it any credence? I mean, Jay Cutler, he's going out there, he's saying all the things that any quarterback would say, regardless of what they really feel inside, and that is that he feels comfortable in the offense, and he's really starting to pick it up. But here's the thing. To this point in Jay's career, you're at the point of you're a Bears fan where it's like, Jay, I mean, obviously the questions are being asked, so you have to answer them, but until I actually see it, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah, when he puts up the wins in the column and gets into the playoffs and has some success in the playoffs with Jay Cutler, because we've burned how many times in the past where he's had big offensive years and you really thought he was kind of over the hump, and he's getting to the age now in his early 30s where that window's closing.
No, what you got with Jay Cutler. You know what you have if you're a Bears fan with Jay Cutler. They're playing musical chairs with the offensive line in minicamp. They actually had Kyle Long playing right guard, which is where he usually is, right tackle, left tackle. So John's trying a lot of different things. He has said that basically he wants to get all of his offensive linemen experience at different positions so that they can be more versatile in case an injury pops up, and that they've actually played at that position, albeit for a little bit, when the pads aren't even on yet. So I think this is maybe more of just a precautionary measure than it is maybe a long-term solution. ESPN's Matt Williamson wrote an article, and he looked at quarterback Mike Glennon, who is now the backup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he looked at 5 possible destinations for Mike Glennon, and the Bears were among one of the teams that he listed. And I'll tell you what, Mike Glennon, I've put it this way. I haven't been disappointed when I've watched Mike Glennon play. He's always kind of had just solid games when I've watched him. The peaks aren't too high. The valleys aren't too low. And I'm telling you right now, Bears, I don't know why if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not asking for a lot, and really they don't have a lot of leverage at this point, so I don't think they would be or would be able to. Why not just give up a late-round draft pick for Mike Glennon?
Yeah, I liked him too. He kind of stands out on the field. He's a big, tall.
He's a real big guy. What is he, 6'8", 6'9",
yeah, 6'8",
something like that?
I mean, he really stands out when he's on the field. But they've always been down on him on Tampa Bay, and I never really could understand why, because he never was spectacular, but he's pretty steady as a starting quarterback.
Now, as a Chicago Bears fan, here's the thing. This is the one team, and really the only team right now in the NFC North where the expectations are very low. So the media, other teams probably for that matter, aren't looking at the Chicago Bears and giving them a lot of credit going into the season. But again, that's almost right where you want to be. Now, do I think the Chicago Bears are going to come out, flirt with double-digit wins and make the playoffs? No. But I don't think it's completely out of the question either. You mentioned that Jay Cutler's had statistically some solid seasons in Chicago, and while they've been overshadowed by the team's ineptitude those seasons, that he has had the good seasons, if this 3-4 defense and Vic Fangio pans out a lot quicker than a lot of people are anticipating, and you being a Packer fan, you've seen that happen when the 3-4 was implemented in Green Bay. There was not really that slow acclimation that we thought that was going to happen. If Pernell McPhee comes in and gives them that edge rusher and a lot of things go the right way for the Bears, who's to say this team couldn't be just completely flying under the radar?
Yeah, basically Kevin White kind of replaced Brandon Marshall, but we've seen the last year that, and maybe the trend will continue, that rookie wide receivers can come in and make a huge impact right away.
The thing I like about the Chicago Bears is that I think they're really going to run the ball a lot, and Matt Forte is obviously he's not getting any younger, obviously, but so I think the signing of Daniel Thomas shows you that the Bears are going to be committed to running the ball, and they're going to be committed to doing so, probably not leaning as heavily on Matt Forte as some would expect when you look at a John Fox between the tackles team. And John really, before it was in vogue in the NFL, liked having 2 running backs at his disposal with D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart down in Carolina. And one would argue, well, that was just a luxury that he had because they drafted him. But I would argue, well, there's a reason they did draft him, and that's because he did want 2 running backs with 2 different styles of running game to complement each other. And I think that's what you're going to see with Chicago. Detroit waived cornerback Bill Bentley, very injury prone, did some nice things for the Lions when he was on the field, but he is now gone. The guy I'm really watching with the Detroit Lions heading into this next season is their second-year tight end, Eric Ebron. Eric had what would have to be considered a very, very disappointing first season, but it wasn't unexpected. In fact, I mentioned this when we were doing a fantasy show leading into the season. Tight ends is like the one position above wide receiver or any other position where it just takes, for whatever reason, players to get acclimated before they start putting up big numbers. But last year, Ebron had 25 catches, 248 yards, and 1 touchdown, a very nondescript year.
Yeah, it was. And he was very disappointed, and he had, a high draft choice, and they thought he'd come in right away and contribute in a big way. And, Detroit last year, they had such an up and down season. Matter of fact, for the last 4 through the Matthew Stafford era, they've been up and down. I mean, they've had some very good teams and some very disappointing teams. So they're a hard team to really put your finger on what they're going to do this year.
You mentioned up and down. When Detroit came into Minnesota in early October, I was blown away by their defense. I mean, they shut the Vikings out. They literally shut them out. And I was like, wow. I'm like, and this was coming off, Teddy Bridgewater was coming off that performance against the Atlanta Falcons because they played the Atlanta Falcons. He had that 348-yard performance. Then he was out the next week against Green Bay where, you remember that game on Monday night. And then he came back or was it Thursday night? It was a Thursday night game. He was out for the Thursday night, and then he came back that next week against Detroit and couldn't do anything. That Detroit defense was stingy. But then you fast forward to December, and the Vikings had the Lions on their heels for like 3/4 of that football game. It was an interception, a really boneheaded decision by Teddy Bridgewater. I think the only one, seriously, that he made in the month of December. It was that interception that really started to swing the momentum, and Detroit ended up pulling out like a 3-point victory at Ford Field. But I was just really not impressed by Detroit in that game. And I'll tell you this, when I look at Detroit, I can't help but think that their defense is going to fall off. I mean, it's got to, right?
With
Losing
Ndamukong
Suh and Nick Fairley, and casual football fan really, I think, is going to get a firsthand account of just what defensive tackles do for your linebacking core. You know, when you got DeAndre Levy having a Pro Bowl-esque season, you know, they keep your linebackers clean. And when you lose a defensive tackle of Ndamukong Suh's magnitude, you know, when you lose him, all of a sudden your linebackers get a little bit more exposed than they otherwise would have.
Yeah, and Suh definitely the best player at his position, and you're right about that. You know, you see these linebackers, and it's kind of a hybrid now where they can run all over the field. They can run down the running backs, and, you know, they can rush the passer. Without that defensive lineman, especially in the middle, keeping them, like you said, clean, that doesn't happen.
I love my buddy VZ, who's always down here. I don't know where he is tonight, but you know, I doubted the Detroit Lions last year. I gave him credit because he was saying they're going to have a good year, or at least watch out for him. I'm going to doubt on him again this year. You know, I think, and I like Haloti Ngata. I think he's going to be an adequate replacement for Ndamukong Suh, but he's not Ndamukong Suh. That's the bottom line. And he did so much from the defensive tackle position. Now, I can't say that without mentioning, though, on numerous occasions on the show, that I've also pointed out that I think that the money that Miami gave Ndamukong Suh was ridiculous for a defensive tackle. But I think the defense falls off a little bit, not too far, but they're going to fall off. And I don't trust this offense. Yeah. They're big play, but there's not a lot of consistency to them.
Yeah, and you remember last year, Megatron missed some games too because of injury. So that's the key, is keeping him on the field, because offensively they're a totally different team when you take him out of the equation.
He's a big guy, and you have to be concerned about his knees. You know, going forward, his knees have got to be an issue. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions don't come out and say this, but if you notice that they're going to kind of keep him on a pitch count as far as snaps here through the next few years of his career. Green Bay Packers, anything, John? I mean, the Green Bay Packers, just because there's not a lot of turnover with this team, at least at the key positions, they're kind of boring right now, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, it really is. And again, this year, I think they're going to be one of the 5 youngest teams in the NFL as far as the roster goes. And, you know, they drafted for depth in the secondary. Linebacker, inside linebacker in particular, is kind of a concern. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. But, I mean, they're pretty much stacked. They got guys even on the offensive line. You know, they're a couple deep at every position. So
now, have you read about the exchange that my coach Mike Zimmer, being a Vikings fan, and the Green Bay Packers have had in the media?
No.
So the Packers apparently took some time out of their practice to go clay shooting. And they even excused some players early. Well, in doing so, of course, the question was posed to Mike Zimmer if he was going to allow his players an opportunity to bond with some sort of activity. And Mike Zimmer said, I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm not going to use practice time to let my players go and play ping pong.
Yeah.
And some have thought that was a direct jab at Mike McCarthy and the Packers, and I don't believe it was. I don't think Mike Zimmer's stupid enough to do that. I believe him. I think that there's and by the way, the Packers aren't the only team who's doing this.
Right.
It's kind of the in vogue thing in the NFL now, is to take a portion of minicamp. You know, if you have an established quarterback, if you have veterans at the key positions, you mentioned that they have such a young roster. Well, the Ted Thompson and the Green Bay Packers have done such a nice job of keeping kind of the topsoil consistent and letting everything underneath, you know, change up and become younger, and constantly the roster is evolving. So the Minnesota Vikings, again, didn't take any time to go clay shooting, but their offseason, their mini camp has been a lot more eventful, of course, with the Adrian Peterson saga continually playing on. I'm telling you right now, there's a name I'm going to give you right now. I'm very, very impressed with him, and that's Stephon Diggs, wide receiver out of Maryland. Watch out for this guy.
With the Packers.
No, with the Vikings.
Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Hey, Packers, that's one place with the Packers. They're going to have to make the decision because they got probably 7 guys in camp that probably or could make an NFL roster.
Are you talking about a wide receiver?
A wide receiver.
Yeah. You guys are stacked at wide receiver. You guys would have wasted a draft pick taking Stephon Diggs. Maybe not wasted it, but I don't know that he makes your roster. He makes the Vikings roster, and he had some issues with injuries in college, and I feel like that's what kind of knocked him down at least a round or two. But they're saying this guy is absolutely electric so far. But again, this is what the pad's not on. Sure. So, there's 2 different kinds of speeds. They're at gear 1. Gear 2 is in August. Stephon Diggs, though, making a huge impact. Another guy that wasn't drafted in the first 3 rounds that is that's making a huge statement early on is a tight end they took from Eastern Illinois, the home of Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's tight end Michael Pruitt. Michael Pruitt, another name you're going to want to remember because they're saying that these 2 could be making an immediate impact. And here we drafted cornerback Trey Waynes in the first round out of Michigan State. And, learning Mike Zimmer's defense, for cornerbacks, we talk about rookie positions that just take a while to get acclimated. Cornerback's another one of those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's typical.
You can't play full speed when you're trying to remember everything, that you need to do.
Yeah, cornerback, I think it's a position that actually through a player's entire career, whether that be 9 years or 12 years or longer than that, I think cornerbacks learn year after year after year, and where they fall down maybe physically a little bit as they get older, I think they get smarter and smarter.
Yeah, yep. Cordero Patterson has looked impressive by all accounts, finally. The issue with Cordero Patterson last year, and I mentioned this is based on firsthand accounts by the radio play-by-play guy of the Vikings, Paul Allen up at K-Fan. The issue with Cordero Patterson wasn't physical, it was mental, and he was running the same route at different distances every time, and it just was too inconsistent to allow him to play.
Well, then it's not the same route if he runs it at different distances.
Yeah, right. But you know what I mean? I'm saying a slant route, a curl route. Like they would tell Cordero, go run a 10-yard curl route. So Cordero would go run a 12-yard curl route. Right. Then the next time he'd go out and run an 8-yard curl route. And then the next time he'd go out and run a 14-yard curl route. Right. And it's just impossible to get on the same page with your quarterback when he doesn't know where you're going to be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the NFL now, all these routes are so precise. We see that with guys like Wes Welker and stuff like that. You have to be right on the dime because the quarterback, the ball's out of their hands before the receiver turns back and looks at the line of scrimmage.
All right, let's take a short break. We're going to come back for a quick segment here. I want to talk Hawkeye football, Iowa Hawkeye football. It's actually been a nice recruiting class for Kirk Ferentz. We've given him such a hard time on this show. It's time to give the guys some due credit. They've been putting together a nice group of recruits for 2016. We're going to highlight a few more that have committed within the last week next. It's the Jeff Robb Show. We're live inside TPC Sports Bar here at Mystique Casino on AM 1490 WDBQ.
Looks like we're on American Idol.
I know. How you doing?
How are you? Good.
Tiger Woods. Well, that's loading. I'm waiting for my thing to load here. It's Tiger Woods misses the cut. The fall from grace continues. Hey, Papa D. Do you want to go see Bret Michaels tomorrow night at Rock the District in Rock Island? No? Bret Michaels of Poison? You want him? Yeah. You're probably not going to go, are you? No. Mama does have to work. Hey, Dad. Dad. This is, I call him Papa D. It's Paul Donovan. His wife actually watched Liddy all week. That's cool. My hands are going to be full now. Mike, I'm going to be calling you right now. Hey, buddy, standing by. Yeah. Sounds good. All right. 10 seconds, Amanda. Go ahead and fire it now.
This is the Jeff Robb Show on AM 1490 WDBQ.
Okay. And we're back inside TPC Sports Bar here at Mystique Casino. John, I'm going to blame the funk of my headphones on the fact that I didn't even announce that we've got Hall of Famer Wade Boggs on the show next hour. I mentioned to you before the show started that my headphone, I've been working out a lot more lately, and I wear these headphones to the gym.
Right.
So I sweat into these things, and, they're the Beats by Dre headphones, and I try to do a nice job of drying them off when I'm done. But I don't know. I put them into this case after I'm done, and they just sit there and they like stew.
Yeah, especially when
do you want to smell them?
No, I don't.
Just try. Seriously, try it.
I don't want to put them near my face. I don't want to put them on my head.
They are absolutely rancid. I got to do something. These are like $300 headphones, so I'm not throwing them away. I'll just make you deal with it, I guess.
Maybe get a little plastic hose, and you can have like a drain that comes out and a little spigot on it.
I'm seriously, I just get like a whiff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like every 15 seconds. So I gotta do something about my headphones. But Wade Boggs, Hall of Famer, going to be joining the show here at about 5:35 or 6:35. Excuse me, 6:35 to talk about, in addition to many things, the Team of Dreams event coming up September 18th and 19th, which is going to take part, partly here at Mystique Casino, but then also, of course, out at the Field of Dreams movie site. He is going to be one of the many legends who is going to be taking part in this event, which the inaugural event happened 2 years ago. This will be the second event. They took a year off. And again, Wade Boggs going to be here, Jose Canseco, Andre Dawson. So many great baseball players are going to be taking part in this event. And the great thing for us is that, number one, leading up to the event, we're going to have I would hope that they're going to line it up where weekly we have one of these baseball players joining the show. And then, fingers crossed here, but hopefully, the weekend of, we can sit here, and as the baseball players come out of playing the Texas Hold'em tournament, the Bounty tournament, where if you knock them out, you get the jersey right off their back. As they come out and get a drink, and we'll let them have a couple before they come up and join us, because that'll make it really fun. And then we get to talk to them here after they get knocked out of the tournament, and we get to BS with them for a couple hours.
The poker room's only about 50 feet away, so Wade Boggs might have 25 of them by the time he walks that distance.
Well, that is the other thing, too, that we discuss, is how many beers did Wade Boggs really drink on a cross-country flight one time, because it has been the subject of many myths and legends, and we finally uncovered the truth. And it was impressive, and that's all I'll say. That's the only tease I'll give it. We're going to talk some Hawkeye football here before we get into hour number 2. We are live inside TPC Sports Bar here at Mystique Casino. Want to thank you for listening online. Of course, thank really my family for being here actually at TPC. We got family in town from Rochester, Minnesota, so I'm glad to see you guys here. Also, my second cousin and Stacy, who are here. Well, Stacy's from Dubuque, so it's good to see you here, but you made a bigger effort to get here from Cedar Rapids, so it's great to have them here. And so I had to acknowledge you guys being here. Also want to thank our YouTube viewers and listeners, and you can catch a stream on YouTube. You can catch a link to the stream, I should say, via our Facebook page, Friend the Jeff Robb Show on Facebook, and you posted that up there a couple of times here in the last 24 hours.
Yep, great to see your family. I was wondering, is Minnesota, are they considering legalizing marijuana?
I don't know.
Because you and your family got that Rochester run coming back and forth. So
I see what you're saying. Yeah. The Rob cartel. It just rolls right off the tongue. Hawkeye football recruits. It's been a very nice couple of weeks for Kirk Ferentz and the Iowa coaching staff. And I know that the bitter Hawkeye fans look at this and they're saying to themselves, oh, it's still not good enough. But I think if you're an Iowa fan, you kind of need to reprioritize your expectations a little bit. So. And we talked about this, quite a bit during the football season, but with Minnesota gaining steam, with some of these other schools around the area where they've been recruiting, gaining steam, it's becoming a lot harder to get those 4-star prospects. What Iowa's been able to do is they've been able to secure a lot of 3-star prospects, and they got a couple more this past week. First of all, they got their top running back target, and one of the things we mentioned, one of the goals that we had for this coaching staff was to go out and find a recruit at a skill position that's at the top of their wish list, because it seems like so many times they'll get the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman and they'll be solid in the trenches, but then they have no one to throw the ball to or hand the ball off to when it comes to real quality. And I'm not saying that they don't have any of that right now on the roster, but I'm saying that you need a guy who just takes it up a notch, because they have a lot of guys who are here, they need to be here.
Right. And we talked about it all last season, right from the get-go, is that Iowa Hawkeyes, they really need a playmaker at some position. It would be running back or a tight end or a wide receiver or quarterback, I guess you could throw in there. Somebody offensively that can really take control of the game, and you can look back at a win and say, you know what? It was that wide receiver that won the game for us.
So the top running back target that they signed out of Indiana, or got a commitment from, I should say, Tokes Akinrabadi.
I like it.
Tokes Akinrabadi. Look at this. See this name right here? I had to phonetically spell it out to remember how to pronounce it. But yeah, Tokes Akinrabadi from Indiana. He is the team's 10th commitment for 2016. Chose Iowa over Michigan and Indiana. 3-star recruit who 247 Sports Composite ranks as the nation's 46th running back. So there you go. From Brownsburg, Indiana.
Brownsburg, Indiana.
You got it. Yep. Their coach, Brett Comer, had this to say about Tokes Akinrabadi. When I took Tokes to Iowa, Coach Ferentz told me there are 3 running backs that we've offered that can make a difference here, and you're one of those 3. You're number 1.
Yeah, that makes me sick.
What they're getting is a kid that is big enough and muscular enough to run through the hole, and he's not going to get caught. He's a one-cut vertical back, and that fits what they do very well. You think of Iowa, they line up in the eye and are running read and inside zone, and that fits his personality. So there you go, Tokes Akinrabadi, a 3-year varsity starter, rushed for over 3,500 yards, 37 touchdowns in his career, including over 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns as a junior last year. Some impressive numbers.
Yeah. So, I mean, is this guy out of high school? Are those the numbers you're talking about?
Yeah, these are his numbers in high school, but he's
not a
transfer. But through 3 years. No. He's got one more year to go here. He's a verbal commit to Iowa. He's got his senior year, and then he's going to be a member of the class of 2016 for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Another guy that they found, another nice recruit for the Hawkeyes, Barrington Wade from Skokie, Illinois. He's been ranked as a running back. He's actually ranked higher than Akinrabadi at 29th in the nation, according to the same metrics. But the Hawkeyes are recruiting him as an athlete who they feel could play linebacker or safety with his length.
Yeah. And again, it's hard, and we talked about this all the time. It's hard for Big Ten teams, although Ohio State is the national champion, to get these guys that normally go to, the Florida schools or the Texas schools. So, the thing about this class is with Friends, my question is Friends going to actually see these guys play?
Yeah. Well,
is he going to last that long, depending on how this season goes?
Well, and you start getting closer and closer to the end of the contract, which I think expires, 2019, 2020, and you start talking buyouts,
Right.
and I think the general consensus among Hawkeye fans is that this is really a pivotal year for Kirk Ferentz, that if things really go down the pooper, that you could be looking at a potential buyout at the end of this season. But again, certainly it becomes more and more feasible as you get towards that 2020 year. The third recruit that they got a commitment from here in this past week, they found a safety, another 3-star recruit. This time it's Amani Hooker from the Twin Cities, from Park Center. So 3-star recruits for Iowa since we were on the air last Friday. That's a good week for Kirk Ferentz. And I think it's interesting to note here that 2 of these 3 actually passed on offers from Michigan. So, Harbaugh got all that money to go there, and I don't know what his recruiting class is looking like, and I'm sure it's more glitzy than Kirk Ferentz, but So far, just in the short amount of time that I spent getting this stuff together,
Right.
Kirk Ferentz has beat Harbaugh on 2 recruits.
Yeah, and as far as recruiting go, I know on Bleacher Report, I signed up to be, the Hawkeye fan or whatever, so I get these little pop-ups all the time, and I'm going to have to fine-tune it because I'm getting pop-ups in the middle of the night that say the Hawkeye signed 2-star recruit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't need to know that.
No, you don't.
4 o'clock.
Are you talking about Bleacher Report?
Bleacher Report.
Yeah. I get the same thing too. I tell you what, there are times where I'll look at my phone and I'll just have nothing but BR just across the top.
I'll tell you the funniest one. I
still love the app,
and I can't remember the guy's name, but it says 3-star running back or whatever it was. Iowa signs him over Indiana. I'm like, are you bragging about that?
Well, you can brag about Michigan though. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's one of the powerhouses. And that's a good find if you can get a guy to commit over Michigan. We're going to take a short break again, very short segment here. We're going to come back. 6-Pack at 6 is coming up to kick off hour number 2. And as I mentioned, Wade Boggs, Hall of Famer, going to be joining the show in hour number 2 as well. It's the Jeff Robb Show. We're live. TPC Sports Bar, Mystique Casino on AM 1490 WDBQ. Hey, buddy. To kick off before we do the 6-Pack, I'm going to mention the stuff about champagne real quick. Right. They want me to pass along.
Sounds good.
Who wants a free drink ticket? Stacy, you get it because you raised your hand first. Who wants Bret Michaels tickets? Tomorrow night. I feel like Bret Michaels has been in this area like 100 times in the last 4 years. Do you guys have any t-shirts? I have no t-shirts today. I'm sorry. Do you have one yet? You do. Aren't they great material? They're quality. Oh, you do? Did you frame the Jeff Robb Show t-shirt? That would, oh gosh. That would be just a touch of weird if you asked me to autograph a shirt for you. It would be. I'd be flattered. I'll get you one, Jenny. Yeah, right? The pit stains are still there. Hey, Papa D, I gave Liz a couple of lunch buffet certificates. Yep. Stand by, buddy. What's that? How does the spot load look for hour number 2? That's it? Okay.
That's for my buddy Philly.
So we're still gonna break it down. You might have to just insert like a song or two or a commercial or two, just to make a stop set because I'm gonna try and break this this second hour into 3 segments. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Hello. Okay. Go ahead and start it, Amanda.
You're listening to the Jeff Robb Show on AM 1490 WDBQ.
I printed off the wrong show, dude. That's why I was kind of frazzled at first.
Oh.
I printed off last week's show.
Whoops.
And we're back inside TPC Sports Bar here at Mystique Casino. Want to thank our sponsor, Bud Light. And just a reminder here, the Cubbies kick off a 3-game series tonight against my favorite team, the Minnesota Twins from Target Field. And you can watch all televised Cubs games here at TPC Sports Bar and take advantage of their food and drink special. You can get a burger basket and a draft beer for $8. Again, that's all during all televised Cubs games. Otherwise, they have $2 drafts during Cubs games here at TPC Sports Bar. This is not the only place to come, though, inside Mystique Casino when it comes to great food. Champagne Steakhouse has new hours that they want to introduce. And beginning this week here, Wednesday and Thursday, they are open from 5 to 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 5 to 10 p.m. And this is really great. And we love Champagne. My wife and I have been to Champagne Steakhouse more than you can count on two hands because we love the food there so much. But beginning Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, and excluding Saturday, so this will not be available on Saturdays, but again, it will be available Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They are going to have a 4-course summer menu. Check this thing out. It includes app, super salad, entree, and dessert. And they've got some impressive stuff on the menu here. Let's just look at the second course: chicken spatzel soup, summer green, and melon salad. The entree, you can go with the cedar plank salmon finished with lemons and capers, or the orange chipotle glazed baby back ribs. How good does that? I'm like drooling right now.
It all sounds good, and really down here in Mystique, we're kind of our own ecosystem, Yeah. I mean, we got 3 great restaurants here at TPC Bar and Champagne, Bon Appetit Buffet. So really, you never have to leave the building.
No, you don't. Again, this is going to be offered beginning Wednesday. Champagne here inside Mystique, and the new hours Wednesday and Thursday 5 to 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday 5 to 10. And that 4-course summer menu, by the way, 4 courses, all for just $30 a person, so very reasonable.
Yeah, and after the first 3 courses, I don't know about the cheesecake for the 4th one. I might have to get a little
actually
box.
The 4th, you have a choice with every course except the 4th. It is the fresh berry Napoleon.
Ooh,
sounds delicious.
Delicious.
All right, let's transition here from food to sports, or maybe you do have some food mixed into the 6-pack at 6, presented by Bud Light.
Yeah, if we don't, we will.
All right, this is our weekly sports talker potpourri, where John brings 6 topics to the table. John, fire off number 1.
We're going to talk a little bit about the Major League Baseball standings, and I looked up and where teams were a year ago, and there are certainly some surprises. We know the Cubs have improved, but did you know at this time, on this date, a year ago, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, or Rays now, were in last place, and today they find themselves in first place.
The Tampa Bay Rays are the surprise team in all of baseball for me, for my money.
More than the Cubs. More than the Cubs,
yeah. And here's why, John. I challenge you to tell me 4 hitters in their lineup.
Can they be pass hitters like Wade Boggs?
No, they got to be players who are actively on the roster.
I agree.
No, give me. Who can you name in their lineup?
In Tampa Bay Rays, I can't.
Evan Longoria.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm just doing this here. Kiermaier, because I had him on my fantasy team for a while. Souza Jr., because I also tried to get him and I couldn't in fantasy. And I don't even know that he starts for him. I know Logan Forsythe is on the Rays. I don't know that he starts.
In Tampa, really, I mean, they're one of those teams that you forget they have a Major League Baseball. We talked about basketball, about the Atlanta Hawks, who had a great year. They're one of those teams you forget they have a professional basketball team.
Well, the people in St. Petersburg and Tampa also forget they have a Major League Baseball team because they never go to the games. And Florida baseball is not working. It's not working in Tampa, or St. Petersburg, I should say. And it's not going to work if they move across the causeway into Tampa. It's not working down in Miami. Attendance numbers are down. Now, the one thing about the baseball markets down there is that they are drawing viewers on television, but TV contracts alone are not going to be able to support a Major League Baseball team. It's going to be an interesting decision for Major League Baseball here as they get further along with this thing, especially with St. Petersburg, with the Tampa Bay Rays, because obviously Miami just built a new stadium. Right. But, the Rays could be up for relocation down the road. I mean, they're going to have to do something because clearly people are not interested in going to baseball games. I remember the year they went to the World Series that they down the stretch in the ALCS, I think they played the Boston Red Sox, and there were shots of the stands. And the lower level, this is not the entire Tropicana field, the lower level was like only 2/3 full. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the most pivotal games in the franchise's history, albeit a very brief one, and they can't even fill the lower level of Tropicana field, which is not huge.
Yeah, it may be one of them situations where a lot of people in Florida aren't originally from Florida. So a lot of them players, they're from the Northeast. They might be, or not players, but a lot of the fans might be Red Sox fans or Yankee fans or Cub fans.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And there's a lot of other things to do there. Go
absolutely.
out fishing, go to the beach. So, yeah, baseball's kind of an afterthought in Florida. And as you mentioned, a lot of residents there have allegiances to other teams when they move there. Last thing I want to say about the Rays, their pitching staff is ridiculous. Chris Archer is amazing. He has been the single most impressive player I've watched play all season long from opposing teams. When I saw him mow down the Twins, I was really impressed. He's got this like bulldog kind of brash attitude that I really like to see. It's not cocky, but it's very confident. Chris Archer is an ace. And the thing is they're doing this with their pitching staff. Their bullpen's good too, but they're doing this with their pitching staff. And they got guys like Drew Smiley, who one executive has said is probably better than David Price right now on the DL. Right. Cobb's on the DL. He's gone for the year. But I'm just saying some of their best pitchers haven't even played for the Rays or have been off the roster on the DL now for several weeks, and they're still doing what they're doing, leading the AL East. It's amazing. Yeah, you mentioned the Twins. Last year on this date, they're 6 games under 500, and today they're 5 games over 500. 11-game swing. Yeah, so far, it's been a good season. I mean, there's no way you could say it hasn't been. Now they're coming back down to earth a little bit. They lost at one point 8 of 10 games. Right. They started to rebound here with a nice little 2-game sweep, if you will. I say sweep. It was actually a home-and-home series, really, against the Cardinals. They lost both games at Busch down in St. Louis, won both games up in Minneapolis at Target Field. So they're getting good pitching. That's the thing for the most part. They're getting good pitching for the most part. The problem with the Twins is that they just cannot hit the ball. They need to find some pop in the middle of their order. Trevor Plouffe's bat's gone cold. That's a real concern. And when you have Kurt Suzuki hitting like 230 as your 5th hitter, you've got a real problem. Yeah. So they need to find something. And, I mentioned this, that there's that rumor going around that they're one of the teams who's actively trying to shop for a bat for their lineup. I don't think that's a wise decision because I don't know that they're about ready to peak yet, and I hope that they don't sell the farm literally to get a powerful bat in their lineup because, again, I just don't think that they're ready yet. They're overachieving right now. So I hope that they don't go down that road, but the guy that's been floated out there is Miguel Sano, who is their power-hitting third baseman / outfielder / designated hitter / first base. He's going to end up in one of those positions when he comes up, and apparently he's closer to coming up than maybe I would have thought even last week. And, of course, this being after Byron Buxton gets called up. They're highly touted by many, well, certainly consensus, top 3 prospect in all of Major League Baseball. He comes up, has had a pretty deflating debut week, I would say. I mean, I don't know. Expectations were really high for him. I don't know that was fair to have those high of expectations. His biggest calling card is speed on the base paths and his defense in center field. The hitting is going to have to take some work, but some of the swings he's been taking it's been really, really, it shows you there's a lot of maturing left to do at the plate. Yeah, one of the most surprising things comparing the statistics or the standings from last year to this year was last year on this date, the Milwaukee Brewers had the second best record in baseball. Yeah, that's Milwaukee is they're in a transitional state right now, and the thing about Milwaukee, without watching a lot of Brewers games, it just feels like some of the young talent that they had on their team that they were really high on 365 days ago has regressed. Yeah. So we're going to have to figure out what the Brewers are going to have to make some big changes, I think, before things get a lot better. But, they were one of those teams, we looked at going into the season and said, for the Brewers, they're hard to figure out because they could be decent or they could be really bad. Well, they went with the latter. Yeah, they went really bad. And, last year, like I said, at this point in the season, second best record. But the second half of last year, that was kind of the Brewers hitting the skids. The Cubs last year on this date were 11 and a half games out. 11 and a half games out for the Cubs, and now, of course, they've had a really nice start to the season. Here we're almost at midway, so let's just say the first half of the season, first third of the season. The Cubbies are like so many teams in that they are really they personify the youth movement in baseball. They're relying on young players who are producing for them for the most part. I mean, if you look at this roster and you look at every position and every player and how they performed throughout this season so far, I'd say really the only disappointment had to have been Jorge Soler, right? Soler, I mean, at least for the positional players. Yeah. He's been really the only disappointment for them.
And probably Baez. I know.
Yeah,
in spring training, everybody was looking at him starting the season on the major league roster. That didn't happen.
That's
he played in the minors, came up, got hurt right away. So he's a work in progress also.
But this Kyle Schwarber that they brought up, and Theo Epstein's been very clear that they're going to send him back regardless of what he does here in interleague play as the DH. He's hitting the hell out of the ball, and it's getting to the point where he's going to make it very hard for them to send him down. I still think they're going to stick to their guns and send him down to the minors when it's all said and done. But, I'm telling you, especially when the rosters expand in September, he's got to be one on their list to call up. He is just one of the many bats that they have in this lineup that are producing. Things are looking very, very good for the Chicago Cubs. Now, the one thing I was going to get to later in the show that I'll just mention now for the Cubs is I don't think that they're going to go out, just in what I'm reading, and I could be completely off base by this, I don't think they're going to go out and sell the farm to go out and get a Johnny Cueto at the All-Star break. It just feels like this team is really content with whatever plays out this season with what they have. They might go out and make a few minor moves, but I don't see them going out and getting a Cashmere, maybe a Cashmere, because Billy Beane apparently doesn't value his players like everybody else expects him to after the Josh Donaldson trade last year. Josh Donaldson for Brett Lowry. What the hell was he thinking? Seriously. Well, there was a movie made about Billy Beane and about how smart he is, and then he makes maybe one of the most boneheaded trades I've ever seen. But anyways, we'll get back to that. So I don't see them going out and getting an ace and giving up a lot for him this season, but they got a lot of money that they're going to play with in the offseason. I think they're going to go out and sign another one of the top 3 pitchers available in the offseason.
And I hope they don't get him. I hope the Dodgers re-sign him, but Greinke's available as a free agent this offseason.
Yeah, that'll be – well, you guys got the money to burn, though.
That'd be a perfect fit for him. One more thing on this, and I found this very interesting, and it goes back to 2006. On this date in 2006, the Twins were 11 and a half games behind Detroit. They won 62-32 the rest of the season and won the American League Central by 1 game.
Yep, and the way that happened was the last game of the season. I think the Twins were playing, I want to say the Royals, and they ended up winning the game. Detroit ended up losing, and again they had to go to, and they ended up taking. It was an incredible comeback. You know who really started that whole thing, because they had Johan Santana. But that was the year that Francisco Liriano arrived on the scene. Francisco Liriano came up, and he was absolutely amazing to watch. In fact, I remember watching a game. Liriano went head-to-head against Roger Clemens that year in Houston, and it was so impressive to watch. And, he just mowed down that lineup, and you're like, oh, my gosh, we have 2 power-pitching left-handers in the Twins organization for the first time ever, and it really played out that way through the season. And then I think in the playoffs, they ended up losing to the Oakland A's. I think they got swept. It was like Frank Thomas hit like a home run to win game number 1. It was Zito against Santana. And the Oakland A's ended up just beating us. And it was kind of like the most uneventful ending to what otherwise was a really entertaining season.
Yeah. Normally, you look at the standings, we're about 40% of the way through the season. You look at the standings, see a team 11 and a half games out. You have to think they're toast at that point.
Yeah.
Even this early in the season.
And that leads into a great talker here when it comes to baseball, the Chicago White Sox.
Right.
Chicago White Sox right now are 11 games out, and they have to make a determination. Are we buyers? Are we sellers? It seems like even crazy to debate. Of course they're sellers, but this team truly believes that they can still win. I don't see it. The White Sox have spent exactly 1 day above 500 this entire season. It's been an absolute disaster.
A team we both like going into the season.
I loved them going into the season, but they've got a decision to make now with Jeff Samardzija. Does Jeff Samardzija get traded? Do they try and move him and get some young talent, or do they hang on to him? Jeff Samardzija's had a good season. He hasn't had a great season statistically, but the defense of the Chicago White Sox may be the worst in all Major League Baseball. So when you're trying to evaluate Jeff Samardzija's worth, you have to take that into account.
Yeah, Samardzija's been kind of a tough luck pitcher the last couple of years. He started out last year with the Cubs, and he was just incredible the first month and a half or 2 months of the season. And he had a 2-8 record or something like that because the Cubs didn't give him any support. We're going to move on. Before the hacking scandal this week, we only knew the St. Louis Cardinals as the team with the best record in baseball. How are they doing it? And don't say by hacking other teams' computer systems.
Well, they're doing it because they've got the blueprint that obviously the Cubs are following. And I guess I'm going to use an example in the NFL, and that is what Ted Thompson's done with the Green Bay Packers. He has the top-end talent, and he keeps replenishing it with young players. And the farm system for the St. Louis Cardinals is just like never ending, and they've got all these young players coming up, and they've got the high-enders, the veterans who are, producing. Obviously, losing Wainwright this season was a huge loss. But, I mean, are we talking about how the Cardinals have done it the last 10 years, or are we talking about how they're doing it this season?
How they're doing it this season, because I was surprised.
Well, look at Johnny Peralta, man. Look at Johnny Peralta's numbers.
But
I've got him on fantasy baseball, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, but, looking at the roster research in this question, I expected to be surprised that there would be somebody on the roster that has 15 home runs and 45 RBIs, and I'd say to myself, oh, I forgot about him or whatever. But really, I mean, you look at the roster statistically, which doesn't always translate into wins directly.
Yeah.
But there's really nobody on their roster that's having a career year, let's say.
No, and actually that's the reason I'm not 100% buying into the Cardinals right now. I really am not. First of all, I don't think this team plays that well away from Busch Stadium. I really don't. I think that there's a little bit of not fluke, but I want to say that there's a chink in the armor maybe for the first time in a while for the Cardinals, and they don't play that well on the road, and in particular, they don't score runs on the road. I mean, their lineup has got to get better. They've got a nice pitching staff. They've got a nice bullpen, but they've got to supplement that with some run support, and especially when they're on the road away from Busch, they seem that they can't get it, and obviously injuries have played a part in that this season for them, with Adams going down. But the team that I was absolutely ripping after the Twins played them, about a month and a half ago, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right.
They continue to win games. They have the best bullpen in all of baseball. They've got A.J. Burnett, Francisco Liriano, who's on right now, because it's either on or off for Francisco Liriano. He's on. And then, of course, their ace, Garrett Cole. They're pitching lights out. They do have the run support to give their pitching staff. And they're a team that is only, 4 games back right now, the Cardinals. They could catch the St. Louis Cardinals, maybe 4 to 6 game back. You got the standings right there?
Right now, Pittsburgh is 4 games back. And you mentioned the Cardinals at home and on the road. On the road, they're only 1 game above 500 at 17-16. And the Cardinals are 26-7 at home.
So again, you got to win on the road, and the St. Louis Cardinals can be caught, and that's good news for Cubs fans, because I'm not dismissing the Cubs as being unable to catch them. I think the Cubs can make a run at this thing too. I think the fact that the Cubs are 11 games behind right now. Is it 11 games? Is that what it is?
Cubs are
or is it 7?
7 games.
So 7 games. I mean that is certainly that's certainly attainable. They can definitely catch the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I have to believe that the injury to Wainwright's going to catch him eventually. I mean, I forgot what a good pitcher. He's a 2-time 19-game winner and 2-time 20-game winner.
Yep.
So you kind of forgot with him being out this season what a good pitcher.
Where do you look at Jason Hayward real quickly? Like how do you, because he's going to be up for a new contract. He's going to be a free agent. Yeah. How do you evaluate Jason Hayward?
Yeah,
he's just such a weird player, isn't he? I mean, what's he hitting right now? He's hitting like 260?
260, 6 home runs, 7.
I mean, it's been a disappointment
stolen bases,
this season.
I mean, it really has. And, actually, Hayward, I mean, he was been a disappointment.
He has.
I mean, he had that Bryce Harper label on him when he came to the majors, and he's really never achieved that. Let's move on. DraftKings is the sports fantasy daily juggernaut. Did you know that DraftKings is not available to Iowa residents?
No, I didn't.
It is not. There's 4 states. It's Iowa, Montana, Washington, Louisiana. And the reason it's not available to Iowa residents is that the state legislature, I always have to stop and clear my mind.
That's okay.
Before I say legislature, is hasn't determined if fantasy sports is a game of skill or a game of chance. And if it's a game of chance, it's gambling.
Sure.
And falls under the gambling laws. There are a couple bills in the, I think the Senate passed one. There's another bill in the House. So they're trying to get that distinction.
Interesting. Well, I wish that Iowa legislature would get on the same page with our cable providers and get rid of those annoying commercials if I can't actually do it. Because I'm not a huge fan of the commercials. And, you can win a shipload of money. He spins the steering wheel of the ship. It's just annoying.
Yeah. I never really, I had talked about it with a lot of people. A lot of people mentioned it until I went the other day to check it out and sign up, and they asked me what my state was. There was a little drop-down button, but Iowa did not exist on that little drop-down.
Wow.
On that little drop-down menu. So
did not know that.
So hopefully, like I said, there's legislation going through right now. So I'd like to check it out.
You know,
fun.
I know a couple of guys who will play sports bets online, not here in Iowa, but in other states. I've never actually talked to anybody. I don't think. Yeah, well, I certainly haven't talked to them. I don't know that I know anybody that actually has used it before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think I have either, really.
I mean, I just wonder what the success rate is. I mean, obviously it's not great. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you're playing fantasy sports on a daily basis. I don't know. I would like it to be available so I could at least check it out. So how would that work then? What if you took your computer over to East Dubuque?
I suppose you could
plop down at Georgian Dales or something.
I suppose the problem really is how they're going to pay you.
Yeah, sure.
So you have to have a mailing address. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I know in the state of Iowa, a lot of the senators and representatives, they're looking for the cash money, what they can get off, you know, because they're going to take a piece of the piece of the pie too. So let's move on to number 4, Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr. Your thoughts? Coaching genius, or did everything just go right?
No, I said that he deserves a lot of credit because he made a lot of in-series adjustments. You know, putting Andrew Bogut on the bench, giving Andre Iguodala more minutes. Obviously, he went on to be the series MVP or the finals MVP. He deserves credit for that. Not only with the roster, though, with their scheme. You know, they did something that was so unique that no other team really that I had ever seen did, in that they isolated LeBron James and said, LeBron, beat us. We're not going to allow you to make a pass once you drive to the lane, and we're not going to allow J.R. Smith to hit a 3 outside. We're going to cover up everybody else. We're going to make you beat us single-handedly, and you know what? He did.
Yeah.
He did. So what Steve Kerr did is he went back to the drawing board and said, okay, this isn't working. Give him credit because he immediately recognized that, and they flipped the switch, and they went back to the way that every other team has defended LeBron James teams, and that is you don't let LeBron beat you. You let him get his because he's going to, because he's that kind of a player, but you make other players beat you. When they did that, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Mozgov, all the supporting cast could not fall in line and pick up the slack.
Yeah, and he had a great quote, and this quote is true not only in sports, but in life in general. He says, it's ironic, but the unexpected thing was that everything went exactly as we hoped, and that never happens.
No.
And it's true.
You know, it's odd, though. You look at the Golden State Warriors and what they did, and then you look at the numbers that Steph Curry put up. I mean, I'm talking about through like the first few games in the series. And again, when the effort was clearly lacking on some parts, but Klay Thompson had a bad series overall. I mean, a disappointing series. Steph Curry, I would say, you know, despite what he did in certain games and big moments, I would say overall I walked away kind of, you know, as far as his performance. You know, it was Andre Iguodala, it was Draymond Green really stepping up and not necessarily carrying this team, but doing just enough for them to win a couple of games in this series when they weren't giving 100%.
Right. You think that's what it was? They weren't giving 100%?
I don't know, man. I mean, again,
just looked off.
It's so hard to go on the air and say, I'm questioning your effort in a finals game. But when Chauncey Billups goes on ESPN and says it was a lack of effort, I feel confident that I can go on the air and say the same thing, just because Chauncey Billups knows a hell of a lot more about the NBA than I'll ever know.
But correct me if I'm wrong. I think you said that about Golden State all through the season, where if you casually watch them, you know, little bits and pieces during a game, and at the end of the game they win, you're like, how did they ever win?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing with Golden State is I've only watched them a handful of times. I think I prefaced it by saying that.
Right.
But the thing about watching Golden State is they go on these amazing runs.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're so good at shooting, and that's how. Because, I mean, it's one thing to have a transitional bucket. It's another thing when you've got 3 guys on the floor that are popping transitional threes, you know, 3-4 possessions in a row. And that's how they just get up on you really quickly. You can be up by 5, and all of a sudden you're down by 12, and you're like, you know, only a minute and a half rolled off the clock.
Yeah. Let's move on. The Blackhawks are the most successful sports franchise in Chicago since the Michael Jordan Bulls of the 90s. Which Chicago team wins the next championship? Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox, Bears?
Yeah. I'm going to say it's easier for me. I'm going to say the Blackhawks again.
Yeah. Okay.
Blackhawks again.
I knew you were going to say that, so I have a follow-up question. Who's going to be the second team to win a championship?
Cubs. They're going to get off the schneid. Yep.
Yep.
Cubs win a World Series. I'm saying, okay, I don't want to go that far as to predict the World Series in the next 5 years. I'm saying in the next half decade, they are in the World Series.
Okay, so Blackhawks, Cubs, let's go all the way through it quick. Who's the next team?
After that,
Bulls, White Sox, or Bears?
Man, I don't know. I mean,
it could be 40 years from now.
Yeah, I'll just say, first of all, I don't know what to think of the Chicago Bulls. I don't know. I mean, with Derrick Rose and his inability to stay on the court, there's a lot of inconsistency there. I don't know where they go from here, the Bulls. And I'm not a huge Bulls. I'm not a great Bulls mind, so I don't know. Maybe I'm not the best person to ask, but it just kind of feels like the Bulls are going to kind of be muddling in mid-level success before they have to blow that thing up. So I'm not going to say the Bulls. I'm going to say the Chicago Bears only because of the parity in the NFL and the fact that a team can jump up and make a run. We saw it with the New York Giants a couple of times and some other teams along the way. It's easier to really make a jump up and end up in the playoffs, and then anything goes in the NFL because it's only obviously one game to determine the winner. I'm going to say the Chicago Bears before the Chicago White Sox.
Okay. I think we can say that the Cubs...
Going into the season, I would have said the White Sox were probably right up there with the Cubs.
I think probably the Cubs and Blackhawks probably in the next 5 years have put themselves in position to win a championship.
Yeah.
So last question. The Treasury Department announced this week that they're placing a portrait of a woman on a $10 bill. Do you have any suggestions for that? And which sports executive should go on the $1 bill?
The $1 bill. I don't have a suggestion. Do you? Obviously, you do because you asked the question.
I do. You know the woman that should go on the $1 or the $10 bill? I'm going to nominate my mother. My mother was part of the greatest generation, grew up, lived through the Depression, World War II. So I'm going to nominate my mom.
Well, she certainly appreciates the value of the dollar then, doesn't she?
And she fits one of the criterias for being on a dollar.
That's right.
If she's dead.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
God, you're such a buzzkill here on our Friday evening. I don't even know what to say to that. I have no idea, man. I don't know who you'd put on any currency. Yeah. I think my friend Joe Zwak over here will tell you that they should get rid of the penny, though. Right? Yeah. That's the one thing we need to get rid of is the penny. It's the most obsolete, useless piece of currency.
Kind of the sad part about this is they're finally going to put a woman on currency, and who uses cash anymore? I mean, everything's debit cards and credit cards, and it's all plastic.
I don't use cash anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice job, buddy. And actually, I did a blog post on our sister station's website about that. We need a vending machine that, first of all, has pop that didn't expire a couple of years ago in it. And number two, we need a vending machine that takes debit or credit cards. And I've seen them, haven't I? I know. Well, we don't have one. Out at the radio station, we get the scraps. So what I'm saying is we need a 21st century vending machine out there. It would behoove the local vendor, whoever we go through, to do that because they would probably get another $30 in bottled water out of me and probably everybody else in the building. I'm kind of glad we don't. But there are times we're out in Asbury, and Asbury water sucks. Yeah. Asbury water is undrinkable. And if you're unfamiliar with Asbury water, it's like taking Dubuque water, letting it sit out for 10 years, doing your laundry in it every day, and then drinking it. That's Asbury water. So you don't drink Asbury water. So, when I want to spring for a bottle of water when I get thirsty, and I share a mini fridge with my boss, but when his office is locked, I'm kind of SOL.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it while you're telling that very exciting story, Jeff, is I'm thinking, what I'm thinking about is maybe getting a little hot dog wagon. I know you and Chris Farber out at the station bringing it out every day at noon and selling.
It's $1 million idea, John.
Selling hot dogs out there just to you two.
$1 million idea, John, just from us too. All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. Wade Boggs, Hall of Fame third baseman, one of the many baseball legends who will be participating in the Team of Dreams event September 18th and 19th, both here at Mystique Casino and out at the Field of Dreams, is going to be on the air next. It's the Jeff Robb Show on AM 1490 WDBQ. Thank you. I pre-recorded the interview, by the way.
So don't be distracted.
I know. And already been drunk like 3 times. Great. It was hard coming back. I took Monday off just to recoup and get reacclimated. Oh, you came back Sunday though? I got back like I said Thursday night. I sent an email to my boss. I'm not coming. Go. So here's what happened. The first Midnight Ferry ride of the season was the day after I wanted to go. Before I went to Pittsburgh. Oh yeah, no. I found out that I left that day. Like I was like late on. Yeah, it was a half hour ferry. 5 hours, 4 hours. Man. Yes, it's bad. Yep. Yeah. We leave, so I want to be there by midnight, like 11:30. And we put one. We have to like all like and then it rolls into Michigan at 5:30. By the time we get our time zone, right? So it's I think we're on the ferry. We're on the ferry by the time they get all the cars off, and then it's 3 hour, 3.5 hour drive from the ferry dock home. It's about a 3.5 hour drive from here to the ferry. So it's actually but we get to sleep on the ferry. Right? So that's the reason. Very relaxed. They don't allow you to do ferry. Yeah. All right. So one other thing, we can't get back to the motorhome when it's underway. Yep. And it's a little chilly going across that lake because it's a 30-mile-an-hour headwind to go 30 miles an hour. Right? That's when I forgot last time. It's sweatshirt. You did a little wrong. Nah, you won't. Sweatshirt. I'll probably grab my. Two army blankets, big wool ones. We'll bring with us because they're great for one for fireworks. Yeah, right. Even if it's not a story, you can see the I know.
Hall of Fame third baseman, one of the many legends who participated in this year's team afternoons event September 18 and 19. Wade participated in the first Team of Dreams event, which means you'll have been to the game twice in the last 3 years until you died.
I'm telling you, it's always a pleasure to come out to Cornfield and be a part of it. Get the goosebumps every time you walk onto that field.
This event is about during watching baseball get vitality on the diamond, and there's a prime rib dinner, memorabilia signing, and there's a blackjack and Texas Hold'em tournament in which you have the chance to win cash and, maybe most importantly, the jersey off the back of any player that you knock out of the tournament. Wade, are you much of a Texas Hold'em player?
Absolutely, I'm a horrible card player. I'll probably be the first guy out of the blackjack tournament. That's for sure.
That's good news for our listeners who are going to be participating this week. If you remember back, do you remember any of the players being particularly savvy poker players?
Oh yeah, I think last time I think Ricky won it. Rick Anderson. But he's probably one of the sleeper blackjack players, or poker players that we have. Wouldn't rule out Jose Canseco, and you never know about other players.
I'm excited to meet Rick. I think that's going to be fun.
Hey, wonderful guy. Wonderful guy.
Again, on the program now, Wade Barnes, our baseman, Wade Barnes, the portion of the festival is going to take place at the Favorite Field of Dreams movie site. Where does that movie rank among your favorite sports movies?
I think it's definitely right up at the top when you think about the concept of the whole movie and And when Kevin Costner said, "Hey, Dad, you're so upset," I think that stems to not only play catch with your father, but play catch with your mom, or a daughter wants to play catch with a dad, or play catch with a mom. I think that these are things that everybody wishes and dreams about that. They never had that opportunity, and then all of a sudden it comes to fruition that actually I can go back and play catch with my dad or play catch with my mom. And the guys are coming out of the cornfield, and they're the all-stars, the players that we used to idolize growing up. And it's a wonderful concept of putting all that together.
You mentioned memories of getting back to playing baseball or playing catch before you maybe even step foot on the diamond. Excluding your first day in the majors and winning the World Series in 1996 for the Yankees, what's your favorite baseball memory? And it doesn't necessarily, of course, even have to be in Major Leagues.
I think my favorite baseball memory is having my father coach me when I was young and teaching me the game and teaching me how to play it the right way. Those are all memories that I carry today. Enabled me to understand the game, play the game at a level that enabled me to eventually make it to the business. So those are the fond memories that I have of youth baseball is having my father coach.
Wade Boggs, Hall of Fame third baseman on the phone. One of the many legends who will be participating in this year's Team of Dreams event, September 18th and 19th. You can get tickets now and learn more about ticket packages and Team of Dreams. DBQ. I got a buddy who is a huge Red Sox fan. He begged me to ask this. Actually, the last time I interviewed you a couple of years ago. So I told him I'd do it this time around as a failed mention. But did you want to have the Devil Race cap on your Hall of Fame flag over Red Sox cap, or is that media BS?
Media BS. It was something that was put out in the paper that $1 million to go into the first Devil Race. Completely, absolutely, 100% false. I chose the that's like that. Through a lot of due diligence of thinking about which team that I would consider going in at, and talking with not only my father but my wife and various other family members that the Red Sox was the likely choice. They drafted me. Spent 5.5 years in the minor leagues and spent 11 in Boston. And unfortunately, I had to go elsewhere to continue my playing career. So I spent almost 17 years in the Boston organization. And, it's just a shame that we didn't win a World Series.
My thoughts on the legendary. I came across a video in particular.
Matt, listen.
You told him while on the set that you once drank 107 beers. I'm calling BS. Is that accurate?
Well, that was in a time frame. From Boston to LA and then of course the night. But that's about my neighborhood.
That's impressive. And another guy who enjoys tipping a few back. We might even have the opportunity to do that while you're here. 107. So you must have come back about 12 to 14 deep to the airport, I'm thinking.
Everyone was like
Wade Boggs on the phone. As I mentioned,
3.
It's always funny in Philadelphia. Have you always been
By the way, teleporting, if I could have one power, teleporting would be number one. I'm just saying.
It's a hilarious show. The writers are phenomenal as far as putting episodes together and twists and turns, and they did a wonderful job with putting this episode together.
Whenever I have a player or a human of your magnitude on the show, I always like asking them a few questions that maybe catch them off guard. Just because I kind of like to see the other side, kind of drop classic rock. Am I wrong?
Oh, love classic rock, but let's do the 70s on XM radio. Yeah, satellite radio. Let's do the 70s quite a bit. Otherwise, I like 70s music,
Classic rock.
And country western.
Okay, so you
There's,
that's good. Last question for you, Wade, here before I let you go.
Lead it
What
up.
would you have done if you didn't become a professional baseball player?
Great question. Probably gone into the field of being a doctor. I enjoy orthopedics and things of that nature, but you never know. I never wanted to do anything else. But it would have probably either been the field of medicine or law enforcement.
Wade Boggs, catch him at all the Zoo of Dreams festivities events, September 18th and 19th at Mystique Casino, and again, also at the Field of Dreams movie site in Dyersville. Wade, thanks for the time.
My pleasure, Jeff. Come on out. We have a great time.
We'll be back with more on the Jeff Robb Show at 1490 WDBQ.
Oh, that's right. His phone died. Mike, I'm calling you right now. Hey, buddy. Just standing by. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I thought initially. So we'll go till 56. So plan on a 4-minute stop set to the top of the hour. All right, Big Slick. Cupcake.
Who are you talking to now?
Big Mike. Okay, Ace. Eater. How much time we have? Probably not that much left. Minute and a half. Well, thanks for your help, Big Mike. Have a great weekend. Did you have a little fun last night? Did you pull a Wade Boggs? Drink 107 beers? By the way, Big Mike says that's very attainable.
Oh, yeah?
I would love to see him do it.
You have to ask me about my...
I don't want to see you drink 107. I'd like to see you drink the last 5, though. If you ever do it, if you ever try and go for it, call me. I'll come over and just sit there and watch you.
Ask me about my airport story drinking beer.
I already know it.
Oh, yeah, I told you that story. That's right.
You've told me 2 and 3 times. No, I'm just kidding. 30 seconds. No, not yet.
She doesn't listen to me.
That'd be premature playulation. I can do this to you because I gave you Rockfest tickets.
Snap.
Yeah, that's right. Snap at her. Snap your fingers. Go.
That was a real goal.
And we're back. Last segment of the show. Again, want to thank Mystique Casino for once again having us here at TPC Sports Bar. Just a reminder, this is the place to watch Chicago Cubs baseball during all televised just all televised games, period. You can enjoy $2 drafts. They also have a deal where you get a burger basket and a draft beer for $8 here at TPC. And again, take advantage of that great 4-course summer menu that starts next Wednesday at Champagne inside Mystique. They've got new hours, 5 to 9 p.m. Wednesday and Thursday, 5 to 10 Friday and Saturday. That 4-course meal, only $30. And you have a choice when it comes to really all the courses except the 4th. you're going to end up with fresh berry Napoleon, but it sounds delicious.
Yeah, it really does.
The one thing that really jumps out here, the orange chipotle glazed baby back ribs.
It all sounds good. When you have the word ribs anywhere in a sentence, it's good.
That's right. What do you got planned for the weekend? Are you working?
I'm working tomorrow. I got some house cleaning to finish up this weekend. I got myself a dumpster. It's one of those guys things that, it's like grilling out. You get a dumpster at your house and you're throwing away old stuff. So I did that the last couple of days. The weather's been beautiful.
It has been, and it looks like if we can avoid rain like later tomorrow, it should be a beautiful weekend again, weather-wise. Of course, Cubs and Twins coming up here at 7:05 as Phil Hughes takes the mound for the Minnesota Twins tonight, going against Kyle Hendricks. Tomorrow, it's John Lester facing off against Trevor May, and then on Sunday, Kyle Gibson against Jake Arrieta. So for the Chicago Cubs, they get two of the top three pitchers for the Minnesota Twins right now in Trevor May and Kyle Gibson. Phil Hughes was supposed to be kind of the quote-unquote ace of the staff, but he's really kind of had a pretty disappointing year, kind of more of a Phil Hughes year than I think the Twins were signing him for. I say Phil Hughes year reverting back to his ways at Yankee Stadium, giving up a lot of home runs. I think he's already given up as many home runs this year as he did all of last year. So they got to bring that number down. Trevor May has been really impressive. I think he had a bump in the road a couple starts ago. Kyle Gibson has been really impressive too. So their best pitcher thus far, without looking at ERAs, but just looking at performance on the mound, would be Mike Pelfrey. They don't face him. And, for Cubs fans, hopefully they can take 2 out of 3 on the road. Being a Minnesota Twins fan, I'm hoping that they can take 2 or 3 from the Cubbies, who are going to have a lot of fans in attendance. I personally know quite a few people who are going to be up at least one of the games this weekend.
Yeah, and a little more breaking news. Alex Rodriguez of the New York Yankees today in the first inning against Justin Verlander hit a home run, and he became the 29th player in Major League Baseball history to get 3,000 hits.
So for baseball purists, again, it's Alex Rodriguez, another guy linked to steroids, who is making himself again another. I guess I should say he's cementing himself into another statistical category among the elite. And I'm telling you, you're going to drive yourself nuts if you try and distinguish who belongs where. Just accept it and acknowledge the fact that it happened in Major League Baseball. Literally acknowledge it in the Hall of Fame that it happened, and let's move on.
Yeah, and you talk about elite company. He hit a home run for his 3,000th hit, and it's only been done 2 other times, and those guys were Hank Aaron and Willie Mays. You can't get in any elite company as that.
Now, you're a Game of Thrones fan. Are you all caught up, or are you season behind?
I'm a season behind.
Oh, my God. How do you not hear about what happens? Do you know?
Well, when somebody starts talking, you can see Game of Thrones on their lips, forming on their lips, and you do that.
See, I when it comes to like social media and talking about it around the water cooler at work, I think there's a 48-hour window.
Yeah.
After 48 hours, if you haven't watched it, that's on you. That's not my fault, and I'm really not going to feel guilty if I spoil it for you. You have 48 hours to figure it out. And you're a season behind.
Yeah. And, I think I'm going to remedy that. Last couple of years, I waited until January.
You don't know what happens. You still don't know.
I still don't know. I waited to January to rent them or whatever on Amazon.com or something like that.
Absolute shocker.
But I think I'm going to remedy the situation this year by getting an Apple TV and renting HBO to go or HBO, whatever it is, and spend a whole weekend and catch up.
So don't you have to have HBO in order to get HBO to go?
No, actually, they're selling it as a separate package.
Oh, nice.
So.
Cool. Well, it's an absolute shocker. I mean, on the same level of like the Red Wedding, a few seasons ago. Yeah, I'm not going to go any further. I know.
Signal.
A couple of HBO shows that are going to be debuting on Sunday. True Detective Season 2, of course, starring Colin Farrell and Vince Vaughn. Ballers, which is a show we've talked about, which is going to star Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who is one of those super agents for NFL athletes down in Miami. And then there's The Brink, which is like this geopolitical satire starring like Tim Robbins and Jack Black.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest to watch The Brink. I think it looks kind of stupid personally. And reading a review, it sounds like all 3 of these shows are a flop. which is really, really, really surprising when it comes to True Detective, just because of how strong the first season was.
Did you watch the first season?
Yeah, I love the first season.
I did.
Yeah, huge fan. I guess I really liked it. I wouldn't put it in like all-time best category.
Not Soprano type.
No.
territory.
And well, it's an anthology series, so each season stands on its own. So I'm never gonna put an anthology series up there with those others because they should be classified differently. I would say they're more mini-series-esque than anything. But, the season 2 of True Detective, I read a review on it. It just got absolutely panned and said it's not good at all.
Right. That's surprising. Yeah. Usually they turn out pretty quality stuff.
Well, HBO is the gold standard for television shows. And to have 3 shows, 2 of which are debuting this Sunday, to have them all flop for their summer, that's not good.
Yeah, and was that the one that you had talked about that they're using actual NFL logos?
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I said that, but then I've been watching the trailers, and of course I read that. That's why I brought it up on the air, but I've been watching trailers, and I've noticed that there's no logo, that it's just the colors. I don't know what extremes or what extent they're going to with the logos or not using the logos, but I know that they were or they are intending to use them without the NFL's permission, and that is really risky because the NFL's got a ton of money. Like, they burn money.
Yeah.
Some of their athletes literally do, but they literally have like a legal team.
Oh, absolutely.
Led by the commissioner, Roger Goodell, a lawyer, and they'd be happy to take you to court and let it play out. And it's kind of a risky proposition for HBO because, one of the other series that's popular on that network is, of course, Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Right?
No, Hard Knocks.
Right.
And the NFL could easily say, hey, you know what? We're not going to give you Hard Knocks anymore. We're going to go to Showtime, who's owned by CBS, who we already partner with for games, and give it to them.
Yeah, and it would be hard to believe that they would end up using the logos without the NFL commission. Like you said, they got armies of lawyers, and I mean, they could fight this for the next 20 years.
Yeah, it could play out. I mean, but is it really worth it at the end of the day? I mean,
I don't know.
Anyways.
It probably gives some authenticity to the show using actual logos.
I told you the NFL has scared the you-know-what out of any radio or television personality. I promise you that. I mean, it's been so ingrained in my head that I can't even say Super Bowl without actually almost stuttering. I have to say big game, big game.
I've actually scratched out on my keyboard at work those 3 letters, NF and L, just so I don't accidentally type them in.
That's great. All right, John, great job on the show tonight. Want to thank Amanda over here. Funny, Abby's not here for once for us to congratulate her, thank her for doing absolutely nothing. Yeah. So, Abby, wherever you are, hope you're listening. Have a great weekend. Big Mike back at the studio. Great work as always. Have a great weekend. My daughter's baptism is tomorrow, so she gets dunked, and then we're going to party out at Eagle Point Park.
Dunked, is that the layman's term?
That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, there probably is an actual term for it. Well, I mean, besides baptism, the process of not dunking the baby, but
is it christening? I don't know.
Christening, maybe. I don't know.
All right. Anyway,
well, ask the priest. You'll be talking to him tomorrow.
I will be. Actually, it'll be Deacon Dave.
Deacon Dave.
Yep, we got a deacon who's officiating the ceremony tomorrow at Nativity. So
that's all sounds like it's sports related. Deacon Dave officiating the ceremony, and
like Deacon Jones.
Deacon Jones.
There you go. All right, we got to get back to CBS Sports Radio here for just a few minutes, and then the Cubs and Twins will start once the game begins. Again, want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening and watching on YouTube. We'll be back next week. Same time, 5 to 7 p.m. It's the Jeff Robb Show. I want to thank our sponsor, Bud Light. Have a great weekend. AM 1490 WDBQ.
That's that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, not a problem. We start at 2:30. 2:30. Yep. Come on, have a sandwich. Yeah. Nope. Yep. Yeah. We're expecting him.
Good night, Emma.